But we begin tonight less than 3 weeks into this new administration, and we are already facing what is rightfully being described as a constitutional crisis. It comes not from the man elected to sit behind the Resolute desk, but from the unelected one, who appears to be pulling all the strings, tech billionaire Elon Musk. It's happening in real time, thanks to Elon's made-up Department of Government Efficiency that he and a handful of young adults from his private companies have unleashed on this country with nearly unfettered access to any agency or database they choose to infiltrate. In this short time, we've seen them all but abolish the U.S. Agency for International Development, with plans to reduce its workforce from 5,000 to what's expected to be about 600. And it's being done without congressional authority, which is required given that it was Congress that passed the law that formally established the agency. Of course, this is just the start. With little pushback, Musk and his minions are gaining access to more and more U.S. government agencies every day. Just today, Trump said he instructed Musk to check out the Pentagon. And those people gaining access to the most sensitive systems are not the best and the brightest. Yesterday, one of Elon's little henchmen resigned from Doge after his now deleted racist social media posts resurfaced. According to the Wall Street Journal, the posts from 25-year-old Marco Elez included such gems as, "Just for the record, I was racist before it was cool. You could not pay me to marry outside of my ethnicity," and "normalize Indian hate." And this morning, right on cue, Vice President James David Vance said Elez should be brought back onto the team, posting, "I don't think stupid social media activity should ruin a kid's life." Oh, okay, so now he's just a kid who was given direct access to Treasury Department systems responsible for nearly every single payment made by the U.S. government, including Social Security checks that people rely on. A kid? I thought they were highly trained professionals, man, not kids. To no one's surprise, Elon jumped on his personal version of Truth Social and tweeted in agreement with JD and announced Elez's triumphant return this afternoon. This after spending much of yesterday joking with his Twitter stands about another one of his junior henchmen who on his LinkedIn went by the name Big Balls and who also had access to millions of Americans' personal data. The absolute unseriousness of these people stands in stark contrast to the dead seriousness of what they're doing to our country and the many unknowns about what they could be doing with our data. Meanwhile, the acting U.S. Attorney for D.C., Ed Martin, who earlier this week said he would pursue legal action against anyone who threatens any Doge employees, something that he offered no evidence has happened, is now saying that he is beginning an inquiry into those supposed threats after a referral from Elon Musk, who apparently now, in addition to wielding the power afforded to Congress in the Constitution, also has the power to order federal criminal investigations. Martin wrote directly to Elon, "We will investigate them and we will chase them to the end of the earth to hold them accountable. We will not rest or cease in this. No one should abuse American taxpayer dollars nor American taxpayer workers." Are these American taxpayer workers? I don't know about that. We don't have any evidence of that. And by the way, we've heard no such pledge from Martin after a conservative website funded by the Heritage Foundation published what it called a DEI watch list with the names, photos, and identifying information of federal health workers involved in diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and that at one point described them as targets. Apparently, in Elon and Don's America, the federal government is no longer here to protect you. It is here for one purpose and one purpose only: to empower and protect Elon Musk and his friends. Joining me now is Congressman Jamie Raskin of Maryland, ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee. I do want to start with that threat from Mr. Martin. Your thoughts on that? He has not offered any evidence that anything has happened other than these names being published by Wired and other journalists. So whatever could he mean by pursuing these so-called threats? He's not given any evidence of it, and no one should threaten anyone. Let's just be clear about that. What do you make of his threats?
I mean, he didn't utter a peep when Enrique Tarrio recently pardoned issued a social media statement on X, I believe, with the name of the female FBI agent who he accuses of various nefarious crimes, and says that she should be arrested and put in jail, and bringing all kinds of social pressure on her. He's not done anything to try to insulate the FBI agents who've come under attack by all of the freed Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and Three Percenters and violent insurrectionists. So that guy is a J6 enthusiast. He's a J6 lawyer, and he's doing everything in his power to exact retaliation against the federal prosecutors and the FBI agents and the cops who simply did their jobs for America.
You know, I still recall, and it still sears in my mind, Ruby Freeman and Shay Ma saying that you can't describe the feeling of your federal government coming after you and training the entire awesome power of the White House on you as just an individual person. What we have now is the U.S. Attorney from Washington, as well as the Heritage Foundation, through its donation to this watch list group. You know, the people on that list, they put their faces in there, they put their identifying information. Some of them have gotten unsolicited pizza deliveries so that people will letting them know they know where they live. People have gotten swatted. I don't hear any impetus from this federal government under the Trump administration to protect any American who, as you said, are being threatened. And they are also demanding to know the identities of these FBI agents, as you just said. And who knows whether those will just wind up in the hands of Elon Musk, who seems to think this is all hilarious. At this point, what protection do ordinary Americans who are not Trumpers, what protection do we have at all?
Well, the Association of FBI Agents went to court yesterday to try to protect not hundreds but thousands of FBI agents who are within the scopes of Donald Trump and his team of people trying to whitewash January 6th. They consider it essential to completely rewrite the story of what happened and turn these criminals, who they called political prisoners and hostages, into heroes and patriots, and then turn the people who enforced the law to defend the democracy, including cops who were wounded and injured and hospitalized, turn them into the villains of the story. It's just so outrageous. And, you know, they have spent the last few years talking about the weaponization of government without any evidence for it, all obviously to prepare for their weaponization of the government to make people think that this is normal.
It's kind of bizarre watching our country sort of descend into this sort of, you know, what in the past would have been called sort of third world sort of junta behavior, but it is happening in real time. And I will note that Marvin Dunn, Marvin Dunn, the former police officer Dunn, not Marvin Dunn as another Dunn, was just
Harry
confronted
Dunn, yeah,
by one of these J6ers in the street, Harry Dunn, in the streets of D.C. You know, by one of them. But anyway, let me move on to the actual thing. I think that people are really freaking out and terrified about. These unelected people, they're not government employees. Nobody knows, you know, Doge doesn't exist. It isn't real. They now have access to maybe hundreds of millions of people's data. The Congress passed a law trying to stop TikTok from operating out of fear that the Chinese government would get Americans' data through TikTok. This is now a group of people, some of whom have expressed openly racist views, you know, that are particularized against certain communities, or who are just unserious in some of the goofs they've done online, don't seem very like serious people. They can do whatever they want with this data. By the time the courts adjudicate this, won't it be too late? Won't they maybe have already downloaded it and repurposed it for whatever?
Well, that's why we need the courts to move so quickly and to enjoin any further leakage or any corruption and misuse of this data while we can. And it may be getting late. I mean, you mentioned the Chinese government, and Elon Musk is, of course, very much in bed with the Chinese government and the Chinese Communist Party. So if they want any of this data, they've got a very clear channel by which they can get it. And it's an absolute violation of the Privacy Act and a whole bunch of other federal laws that are being violated. But Elon Musk has been sending his juvenile fascist night crew to federal agencies and departments throughout Washington, including coming into my district, to NOAA, to NIH, the FDA, in order to get not just all the financial records, but personnel records at NIH, patient records, records from various studies and various grants. So they want to run roughshod over the entire legal infrastructure protecting the privacy rights of the people, all for their own purposes, which may be governmental, they may be corporate, they may be private, they may be political. And right now, all we've got is the opportunity for courts to step in to say that this data must be returned to the government, and we've got to end this raid on it by Elon Musk.
I want to just note for the audience that Donald Trump has announced today that he's going to fire some January 6th investigators, calling them, some of them, corrupt. You responded, actually, to this normalized Indian hate guy. And it's sweet that you don't want to ruin a kid's life, saying to J.D. Vance something to bear in mind next time you oppose gun safety laws. But does that mean that this kid should have access to private data of tens of millions of Americans? And I will note one more thing just for the audience. The New York Times is reporting that the Treasury Department has installed an ally of Elon Musk in a key position overseeing the nation's payment system, replacing a career civil servant who had resisted granting Mr. Musk's cost-cutting team access to payment data. The payment data seems particularly important and particularly sensitive. By the time, again, if the Supreme Court gets this case, and I have no faith, I'm being honest, that John Roberts won't just enshrine this under law and say that Donald Trump does have the unitary authority to spend America's money and it's not Congress. By the time it gets there, again, won't it be too late? They have the payment system. They've got the normalized Indian hate guys back on the job. Can we even stop this?
Well, I mean, speed is of the essence here, for the reasons you're saying, Joy. It is an overwhelming amount of information about a huge number of people. And so if the courts move with dispatch, they might be able to prevent a lot of damage from being inflicted. But nobody should normalize what's going on here.